Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Ray Donovan. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I had no idea this was going to be the season finale because typically the seasons have 12 episodes. This is only episode 10, but I was like, yo, the recap at the beginning, I'm like, yo, this sounds like this is a season finale. But granted, there's so much stuff that went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I do like kind of the opening that we get where it's like Ray's, about to go bury a body in the woods. And then obviously the entire episode you're trying to figure out, like, well, whose body it is. Because even I was kind of getting nervous every time I was like, oh, it's going to be so-and-so. Is it going to be this person? I was like, but then a lot of stuff kind of flurried in my head. I was like, you could kind of easily narrow it down because you're like, there's only a few people that Ray would go out of his way to bury in the forest like that because it's a body he wouldn't want anyone to find. So he wouldn't do it to certain characters. So you're like, it can't be this person. It can't be this person. I can only assume it's this person. But like I said, we'll kind of get to it. But I like how throughout the episode they're kind of dealing with that. Obviously, because at first you're kind of wondering, is it Perry? Because at first you're like, he's in the woods with her. And I think for him, it's like, I might take care of her, kind of make this all go away. But then it's like, because then there's a point later on when someone's about to shoot her, he kills that person. So it's like, well, because I was thinking like either he did it himself or someone else killed Perry, and so he doesn't get caught up in the middle of it. He disposes of her body, but it's like, nope. He had Perry's back. Luckily, they found Judge Scholl still alive, so it's like, yo, that kind of works out for Perry and Judge Scholl. I wonder is Judge Scholl going to be able to give her captain, because we know that he's in bed with Ferrati, so that's probably going to because that also lets her know, like, oh, he's responsible for your partner dying too, so she's probably also going to run through all the dirty cops as well, so I'm surprised to see Perry's storyline turn into what it did. I wasn't sure how her story was going to play out, but I mean, for one, she walked away from this season alive and all of that. Who knows? This might bring a future for her and Ray in the future of like the sense of like that might be someone she goes to because he's kind of a fixer. But she even was like, yeah, you weren't even here at this scene. This was just me, Judge Scholl. So she's kind of covering for Ray. And it's like, he's like, is my daughter going to go on the stand? And she's like, you can pick her up. She'll be waiting for you at the front of the station. He's like, thank you. So everything's kind of good between them. So Ray going to pick up Bridget, and obviously it's the whole conversation, and I like that. I thought it's really surprising when Ray was like, because Bridget's like, I don't know if I can feel him, and he's like, Smitty? It's like, he was trying to protect you, Ray. She's like, I don't know if I want to forgive him, but I thought that was neat, just even for that moment, because even Ray, despite everything he might be feeling at times, like, he knows what Smitty did was for Bridget, so like, it's like, you were trying to protect my daughter, so, I can at least understand that, looking after the woman that you love, he can respect that, despite everything else, so I thought, that was kind of neat, him kind of doing that. But I'm sure spending time with Bridget and everything racing through his head because of all that Gary said about what Sullivan and what was going on with his sister Bridget. Because it's that situation, and it's something, it's sad, like, because the entire episode he's thinking about Bridget, and I think, for him, it's because at the time he felt like something was wrong, but he didn't really get to know the full picture, but he had an inkling like, yeah, something's wrong. She didn't want to go over to Jim's place. It's like, yeah, I don't get what it is, but just something wasn't right. But he kind of because obviously he learns later on from Molly, Bridget was pregnant when she killed herself. And then it's like, the fact is, she felt like nothing was, like, there was so much going on. She didn't talk, because, like, Ray's like, if she had talked to me about it, maybe things could have been different. But even then, he blames himself because he pushed her to, like, go to work that day. It's like, she's like, I don't want to, I got cramps. And he's like, what's wrong with you? You don't just kind of stand up a guy like Jim Sullivan when you make a promise to him. Because at the time, Ray was working with him, and it's like, yo, Jim, Jim's kind of been good to our family. It's almost like he's been good to me. He's kind of looked after us, so don't. Because obviously this wasn't this was like in the time of her babysitting Molly, it wasn't the entire time. It was just at some point during that time. It's because obviously she enjoyed looking after Molly, but then when she started being like, I don't want to go over there anymore, I don't want to look after Molly, that's when you can tell stuff started happening. And Ray pushed her to go there, and it's like, now in retrospect, it's like he blames himself because he's like, because he was trying to, because Molly was like, you can't take this on yourself. It wasn't your responsibility then, nor is it now. But for him, it's like, I said to her, like, because he pushed her to go to work that day and he blames himself. It's like everything that happened to Bridget, he blames himself because like, I should have looked after her. I should have protected her. She was my responsibility. She was my sister. And he feels like he failed her, and it's sad, because you didn't know what you didn't know. But like I said, it's because in his mind, he's like, I knew something was wrong. I just didn't act upon it, And Molly's like, I want to be there with you. But he was like, he kind of pushes her away because it's like him piecing it together in his head. He knows what she doesn't quite know. And he was like, I can't. Because I think being with her, because he knows what he's got to do, and it's like, it's going to break your heart, so we can't never be together. Plus, knowing what your dad did to my sister, like, it's, you know, it's like Ray obviously cares for her, she cares for him, but it's complicated. So there's all that going down. There's Bunchy picking up Daryl, and the fact is they come back, they find Mickey there, they find Smitty there. Obviously Bunchy ain't happy to see Smitty. He's like, yo, he ain't part of the family, he's a fucking rat. And it's like, oh, that sucks. But then even Daryl being like, Smitty, actually, I like you, but you need to stay the hell away from Mickey or you're going to end up dead. Because Mickey was like, oh, where the papers at? It's like, ask Ray where they are. And because, you know, and it's like, you know, I forgot, what was it that Mickey said? Whatever it was. Oh, that's because when he said that, Mickey was like, that's not fair about the whole, like, Smitty, you stay with him, you end up dead. And he's like, and Daryl's like, fair? You're right, it's not fair. It's pure math. Because that's the sad thing. Because, you know, it's because Daryl got mixed up in all of this, Jasmine ended up dying. He didn't even tell Mickey about it because it's like, it's not even worth me telling you, you know, so... That's, you know, so Smitty and Mickey leave, but later on Bunchy and Daryl had a heart-to-heart because he was like, you want to talk about it? But obviously Daryl didn't want to. He's like, I want to let you know, when Terry first told me about you, because I never even knew you existed, but the moment Terry told me about you, I was quiet for a minute. He's like, you don't even have to see him. He's like, I don't have to see him. It's like, nah, that's my baby brother. And so, because obviously Daryl and Bunchy have always kind of been the closest, like probably after that would be Daryl and Terry, and then Daryl and Ray, but you know, even despite all that, because like I said, even with Ray being like, you are my brother, like the fact of the matter, like I said, it's understandable why Ray would have the complicated feelings considering the history between your mom and his dad and what that meant for his family, you know. But you could tell hearing that from Bunchy made, you know, Daryl happy, because Bunchy was like, you're my little baby brother, and no matter what happens, you're always gonna be my baby brother. And I'm like, I was like, the feels, it's so good. Then you have Smitty and Mickey, kind of like, you know, I like that whole conversation about prayers and stuff, or like forgiveness and stuff, because it's like, well, basically with like most churches, it's kind of like you say your Hail Marys and stuff like that on a daily basis, you kind of get forgiven for what you did. But he was talking about from the Jewish religion, which I didn't know this was a thing. I'm not that well versed in most religions in regard, you know, but he was saying that basically it's once a year that they kind of put their all into like asking for forgiveness, you know. So it's like, why don't you take this opportunity? If you ask God for forgiveness, that's so much easier than like asking, you know, Bridget for forgiveness will be a lot easier. And he says, God, I'm sorry for betraying my family. And in that moment, I like that line of like, my family. I was like, it's not even just Bridget. It's like, I'm sorry for betraying my family because this is I was like, that's sweet. The moment gets a call from Bridget and he's like, yo, hey, I'm going to go home. You know, Mickey apologizes for the long list of stuff that he's done. And he gets a call. Obviously, the money situation didn't play out the way he wanted it to, but it seems like Kevin's the one getting involved that's kind of handling all of this. So, while that's being taken care of, Ray gets a call from Jim. Jim is like, yo, let's settle this up. You got the papers, right? Are you going to bring them? He's like, how about you come to my office? He's like, all right. So that's all happening. Declan's making its own moves because obviously Declan's trying to prove himself to their dad because he wants to get his slice of the pie. Obviously Declan, being unstable as he is, gets mixed up in all of this as well. Smitty and Bridget make up, and I'm like, yay! And then Smitty says something where he's like, oh yeah, your dad is like, we can, your granddad, makes like got this plan to get us all a lot of money. She's like, even Bridget's like, no, stay away from Mickey. Whatever the hell he's got planned, just stay away from it. We don't need to be caught up in everything. It's like, I just want to go. And he's like, well, where do you want to go? She's like, go back home to LA. It's like, it's just, it's like, I just want to go home. And he's like, I'll go anywhere with you. I'm like, oh, that'd be so sweet. It'd be interesting. I was like, if the entire family went back to LA after all of this, I think that would be interesting because they've been obviously in New York since most of season 5, because obviously some of season 5 is, flashbacks to them being in LA and stuff. So, but regardless. Well, no, because I think still a lot of the family was still in LA at that time. But like I said, regardless, going on a bit of a tangent. Molly even calling Ray up, being like, yo, where are you? He's like, it doesn't matter. She's like, it does matter, because dealing with all of, like, because obviously the last time we seen Ray kind of deal with something very painful, like that being the whole Abby situation, we saw where that path went. So I think Molly was kind of worried about just in general what he might do, but what he might do to himself. But then, it's like, she pieces it together. She was like, it was my dad, wasn't it? And he was like, goodbye. Like I said, he was like, I wish that we could stay together, but he's like, I know it's not possible. So there's that going on. There's a whole Terry side of things. That was heartbreaking, because he looks on the news and finds out that Dolores had killed herself. It's like, dude, because they were friends, and probably because he probably thinks to himself, like, I gave her that necklace that gave her the reason to just accept things, And for him, it's a thing of, like, she was so strong, and the fact that she did, because even, like, apparently, like, her daughter was like, my mom was kind of a fighter, like, for her to kind of give up, like, this wasn't like her. And so I'm sure that's rattling off in Terry's mind of, like, I gave her that emerald necklace. I might have kind of given herself permission to do that, but, and like I said, I'm surprised that whole, like, shaman stuff didn't come back, like, in a different form. Then I kind of expected that kind of being a bigger part of Terry's story. It set some stuff in motion in certain regards, but regardless of all of that, there's a whole situation of him going, Terry going to see Emerald and actually talking, and it was kind of a very, like, it's actually, heartbreaking conversation, because, like, for Terry, he feels like, it's because they had the whole conversation about fly fishing. It's like this disease, Parkinson's takes a lot from people. He referenced, like, a singer that, like, it's like, oh, he kind of felt like, oh, that was kind of, she had such a beautiful voice, and for him to know that this disease took her voice, it made him feel like, it takes a lot from everyone. But then, like, Emerald tried to give it, like, a different spin, kind of being like, maybe it didn't really just, maybe she found, but for Terry, it's like, first it, took her singing from her, and then it kind of took her, so for him, it's like, he references this movie where someone had fallen from, like, what was it, the Empire State Building, and landed on top of a car. There was no broken bones or blood or anything. It almost looks like that person was peaceful. And Emerald was like, have you thought a lot about suicidal stuff? And it's like, we know that that's crossed Terry's mind, even just in this season alone, And, it's like, you should talk to your doctors about it. It's like, he's like, well, I'm here talking to you about it. And I'm like, and I'm surprised Emerald never brought it up, because once again, I think for, a medical professional, it's not his right to be like, oh, I talked to your brother. Like, it's disclosing any information about his patients isn't right. It's a confidentiality. So, and also it'd probably make Terry even more reluctant to eat, because, like, if Terry didn't have Emerald to talk to, he wouldn't have talked to anyone, because you didn't see him talk to anyone in his family in this entire episode. So, because the fact of the matter is, if he had if Emerald had told him, like, oh, I talked to your brother, he would have been caged up a little bit and probably like, oh, I probably shouldn't talk to you, But it's like, it made him more open to it, seeing like, it seemed like it was kind of working for Ray, so I think it kind of got in his head. But it seems like the way the story was going, it seemed like Terry was thinking about it, which the sad thing is, like, if Terry did that, like, it would devastate everyone, because it's like, I mean, just losing Terry like that, of course, would, but also it's like, your brothers literally went through this with Bridget. So it's like, you'd be kind of repeating that history a little bit, and we don't know where things kind of go in that regard in the grand scheme of things, but you kind of hope that maybe Terry doesn't, ultimately end up doing that. And to me, a very impactful scene is obviously Ray going to the office, Mickey being like, yo, give me the papers, and he's like, go ahead, Mickey. He's like, the fact of the matter is, lays it out. He's like, did you know that Bridget was pregnant before she killed herself? And did you know the baby daddy was Jim Sullivan? And Mickey's like, wait, what? He's like, yeah. And he was like, the fact of the matter is, take this money. I don't care. It's like, no one wants it. It's poison, and no one wants you around, Mickey. Because, and I love that this line was so impactful. You left your children to be preyed upon. Like, everything that happened to Ray and Bunchy, what could have happened to Terry, but he, like, broke, like, the priest's, like, hand or something, or wrist at that time, so he never did anything to Terry. But seeing what happened to Bridget, hell, Daryl's kind of screwed up because you weren't in his life. It's like, you literally screwed up all your kids. You are literally the shittiest father in history. Like, you left your kids alone because you were so busy, hooking up with ladies and just so concerned with money. You weren't there to protect your children, and just all of our lives are fucked because of it. And it was like, that moment and seeing Mickey kind of being like, because everything he ever said and ever done is like, oh, I'm doing it for my kids. I'm doing it for my kids. It's like, no, you're doing it for yourself. You're trying to make yourself feel better by saying it was for your kids. And it's just that realization and having Ray turn away from him. It's like, I was right to kind of never, it's like, and I think in a way, this was Ray's way of killing his dad by being like, we're done. Bunchy's done with you. Daryl is done with you. Terry wants nothing to do you. I want nothing to do you. Hell, even your own granddaughter is like, stay the hell away from Mickey. To her own husband. That speaks volumes. And he even talks about it later on, like, oh, this money's gonna bring my family back together. It's like, it's gonna bring back a family you broke. You know, and you know, it's that thing of like, well, shouldn't someone get a second chance to kind of make things right? It's like, but once again, all Mickey does is fuck everything up. Like, in his twisted mind, he's thinking he's doing what's best for him. But once again, he's doing what's best for Mickey. And everyone else is just kind of caught up in the collateral damage. Hell, the end of the episode is further proof of that. He's making these deals with Kevin. And then lo and behold, who shows up with a gun in hand is Declan. Smitty gets caught up in the crossfire between Declan and Daryl. The moment Daryl and Bunchy were going to follow that suitcase that was being tracked by, I was like, yo, and I know Declan's going after Mickey. I was like, Daryl's going to get his revenge. And lo and behold, he does. Granted, all of this is broad daylight, bright as hell. And Smitty got caught in crossfire and it broke my heart. I was like, no. Daryl literally said, you're going to get killed. It was only a matter of time before Mickey's BS got someone in that family killed. It was only a matter of time. Hell, he literally got Jasmine killed, getting Daryl mixed up in all of this. So there's that. And once again, Bridget was like, do not get mixed up in it. But Smitty, you know, he was just, because he was like, hey, we can use this money. He wanted to do stuff to make Bridget happy. He was like, if we had the money, we can go back to LA and she never had to worry about something. Like, he wanted to do something for her. And he's there bleeding out on the street. I'm like, Bunchy, Daryl, grab him or something. But it's like, they can't. So many witnesses, all this stuff happening. If they took him to the ER or something, there's going to be a lot of questions. Once again, Daryl admitted, like, I liked him, but Bunchy didn't really care too much about Smitty. But at least Ray did and Terry did. But it's like, oh my God. I don't know because Terry doesn't, I don't know if Terry knows about the whole Smitty thing of like him talking to the cops. But it's like, Jesus. And even good old Mickey, what does he do? Because Daryl had pointed the gun and was even tempted to shoot him and was like, this is all your fault. Know that. And Mickey gathers up all the papers and he bounces. And it's like, you literally got Smitty killed. You got your granddaughter's husband killed. The fact of the matter, and that's sad because for Bridget, she doesn't know at the time, and it's like, she's too young to be a widow. And considering everything that went through this season for things to end that way, it's fucking heartbreaking. He's literally bleeding out in the streets. That's no fucking way for that to play out that way. And that sucks. Especially, just like I said, I just wanted them to grab him, at least take, but it's like, dude, it sucks. But once again, like, hey, Mickey's got everything he wants, so he should be happy. He got the money. There's no going back. Your family will forever, you're done. Your family's done with you. So where does Mickey go from here? I have no idea. But wherever it is, he goes alone. Because I didn't even talk about it, but like I said, the entire episode, we're seeing Bridget's story. We're seeing firsthand, like, what Jim does to her. Then the fact is, she came there being like, yo, I need babysit money. He's like, for the money you owe me for babysitting. And he's like, what are you actually doing here? And she shows him the pregnancy test. And he's like, all right, here's the money. She's like, what is this for? He's like, you know what it's for. So, not only, granted, it doesn't matter what he does. He will always be a piece of shit. And like, it doesn't matter if he's like, oh, I'm gonna take responsibility. He had no business doing what he did to Bridget. It wasn't consensual. God knows how old she is either. So that's just even more just shit thrown in his, and it's just, for her, Bridget, she was caught in between. She was like, she shows up at Planned Parenthood and she doesn't know what to do. Who does she call? Mickey. Further proof of he wasn't there. Someone answered the phone and she's like, Mickey? And then hangs up. Either that must have meant that he was with Claudette, or hearing Bridget call him, he kind of felt bad. It's like, I'm gonna hang up. It's like, it must not be anything important. I'm assuming it might have been Claudette, but at the time, I don't know. I don't want to try and put that on her. But like, she didn't have anyone to turn to because she didn't want to tell her brothers about it, because I guess she don't, want to mix up in it. But she was a little girl desperate for her dad. It's what that was. And it's just, she felt like she had no one to go to, no one to turn to, and it's like, that she felt like that was her only option, and it's heartbreaking. And obviously that's what pushed Ray to do what he did. He was like, "What did you do, my sister?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I'm gonna ask you again. What did you do, with my sister?" And before Jim could be like, "It was the time." Bam! It's like we knew it was gonna come down to that. So in one fell swoop, Molly lost one of her brothers, which I don't know what her and Declan's relation was like. They've literally only been in one scene together the entire season. And her dad, but knowing what her dad did, I don't know how she's going to feel about that. But obviously Ray is burying Jim's body, but at the same time that's happening, the whole Smitty thing is happening too. It's like that. Legitimately, this might be the biggest bummer of a season finale. I shit you not. When it comes to this show, it's just kind of like you can't like. And the sad thing too is like when Ray was burying Jim, he saw Bridget. So I don't know whether that's supposed to be kind of like her kind of being. I don't know. You can probably interpret that many different ways. Whether that's her being there to kind of watch over like Jim after what he did to her bear. Because I'm sure Ray continued to work for Jim. Well, because he ended up leaving working for Jim to work for Ezra. So it's like he kept working for Jim after that fact, never knowing. And it's like Jim spent all that time, working with Ray, knowing exactly what he did to her sister. Even at the meeting up with him this season, knowing what you did to his sister, you still got him working for you because Ray didn't know what you had done, And that's just the heartbreaking situation of this. Like, no one walks away a winner. This was just a season of losing. Like, especially this finale, like everyone lost. Because Ray killing Jim, it doesn't fix what was already broken. Like, it doesn't bring Bridget back. Bridget, his daughter, lost her husband, despite them kind of fixing everything. It doesn't bring Jasmine back for Daryl killing Declan. Bunchy's family's kind of in shambles. Terry, like, whatever his situation is going to be, hopefully he didn't take that plunge. And it's just... And Mickey, once again, is kind of the outcast, kind of out on his own. Once again, he brings nothing but misery. Everyone is always collateral damage in his BS. If he had just stayed away, none of this would have happened. None of this. But if it wasn't for those tapes coming out, maybe Ray would have gone his entire life, never know. I'm also curious, is he going to tell the others? Is he going to tell Terry, Bunchy, and Daryl about this? I don't know. I'm so curious to see what this could mean going forward. At the time of me recording this, it hasn't been said whether or not the show is coming back for an 8th season or not. I really hope so. Some stuff is, even from like, I guess like, there's been some stuff kind of hinting like we might be kind of nearing the end of Ray Donovan with where things kind of stand. I wouldn't be too surprised, but I hope they don't end it here. I do hope that we do get at least one more season just because of this crazy finale. I'd love to see where things go forward from here, because obviously those stories are still left open enough to be like, where did they go beyond this? What's next for the Donovan family? Because like I said, I feel like this next chapter will be the closing chapter. Obviously, there's still this whole Ferrati thing because there's a whole case being built against him, but I'm sure he's not going down without a fight. We'll see, because it might be a thing of like, if there's a season 8, that next season he's already dealt with. The Donovans could be dealing with this tragedy. There's still story to tell that I'm, to kind of give all of this a proper, close. Like I said, there's still a lot of stuff we don't know about, like what Terry's situation is, so, I'd love to see what they do with an 8th season. And even if they made the decision, we'll make season 8 the final season, I'd be totally fine with that, because I'd love to see how this will all wrap up. But at the very least, give us one more definitive season. That's kind of all I'm asking for. So, like I said, I'm recording this fairly early, so the decision hasn't really come down the pipeline yet. So, we'll see, whether that'll kind of change in between this being, uploaded, so we'll see. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.